Hi there, and thanks for tuning in to this week's newsletter. I've made another little change of scenery. Now I'm coming to you from southern Thailand. Many of you will know that I reside here for part of the year, so it feels quite good to be home in preparation for our upcoming trip to Japan and South Korea that starts in just a week's time. We had an interesting week this week, in particular our webinar about Norway. And I have to tell you, Norway is one of those countries that I'm really passionate about. In fact, I often get asked the question what my favorite country to travel to is, and Norway always makes it close to the top of the list, if not the top of the list. And I wanted to give you a few reasons for those of you who have wondered about Norway or sort of Scandinavia in general, and why it is that I think it's such a great place to visit. I think the most obvious reason, of course, is the incredible landscapes that they have. The Norwegian fjords are perhaps the most well-known feature about the country. There's literally over 100,000 kilometers of coastline that make up Western Norway. It has a coastline similar to that in British Columbia, except that the fjords themselves are even more dramatic than any other coastline that I've ever seen. Between that and these sort of long rounded mountains that form the inner part of the country, and then the lowlands as you move further east into the area around Oslo and its fjords. Norway simply has incredibly beautiful countryside. And we have to remember as well that Norway is bisected by the Arctic Circle. So fully half the country is actually in the Arctic region. But because of the Gulf Stream, the whole country is warmed. And so that's why our Hurtigruten, our coastal steamer ship, can go all the way up and down the coast every single day of the year. So that is one of the top reasons why I think Norway is a country that's worth visiting. But second of all, the infrastructure. And of course, the other thing that people hear or read about Norway in recent years is talk about their sovereign wealth fund and the $1 trillion that they've built up from the oil and gas industry, which is the main part of Norway's economy. But they've put that money to good use, and it's really reflective of the nature of the people. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But the infrastructure that they've built is truly awe-inspiring. And on the trip that we're going to be doing next year, we're going to get a taste of that, because we're going to avail ourselves of a lot of the public transportation, the amazing train network that they've built up, as well as the buses, the ferries, and the bridges and tunnels that simply connect little tiny enclaves and communities that you would think, when we think back home in Canada, the effort that we have to go through to build a bridge and tunnel in our major cities, let alone in smaller towns. And Norway really is quite a remarkable sight to see. But third of all, just like anywhere, the people themselves are very unique and interesting. And of course, when we think about Norwegians, and we often don't really think about, well, what would Norwegians be like? We think that they look like Scandinavians, like Swedish or Finland, and they've all got blonde hair and blue eyes. But that actually couldn't be further from the truth. And it's something I admire as well about Norway. And it's something that we share as Canadians, because they're actually a very open and very multicultural society. And so when you travel around, particularly the cities like Oslo and Bergen, you'll see people of all kinds of different ethnic backgrounds. And yet their language brings them together as a community and as a family, but they have tremendous outreach to ethnic groups from all around the world. So it wouldn't be uncommon if you see a person who appears to be African and speaking fluent Norwegian, or somebody that's clearly from Asia, and yet they all have this great respect for each other, much like we do in Canada. And in Norway, it's even more pronounced. And again, the benefit of this tour that we're going to be doing next year is that we'll get to meet Norwegians, because we're going to be using their public transportation system and not sitting in tour buses and so on. And in particular on the coastal steamer route, which is a main transportation route for so many people that live in all these communities along the coast. Just like when visitors come to Canada, we like to find out what it is that they are interested in about our country and the impressions that they have. Well, the Norwegians are very much the same, and they love to share their thoughts, their passion for the beautiful country that they live in. So if you'd like to find out more about Norway in general, or about the trip that we're going to be offering, the majestic fjords of Norway in May of 2020, please download a copy of you can view a copy of the webinar, which we just held a couple of days ago, and you can find out more about that trip. We have another webinar upcoming in 2 weeks' time. You can find the details in the blog below, and that's going to be about our newly released program, which is about to be released, which is A Taste of Eastern France, where we're going to be visiting the Rhone Valley, the Rhone River on a river cruise, followed by Burgundy and Champagne. So I'm very much looking forward to that program, and we'll share that one with you in our webinar in a couple of weeks. So I'll be signing off, and next week I'll be coming to you from yet another different venue. So as always, I wish you happy travels.